Hey, this is Jorge from Oso Fast Reviews. Today I'll be reviewing The 100, Season 5, Episode 11, The Dark Years. Finally, this episode comes after all the talk throughout the whole season about the Dark Years. I'll give you a quick rundown of everything that happened throughout the show and kind of my little thoughts throughout it. And then at the end, I'll give you kind of my theories of what I think is going to happen next. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. You start the episode kind of seeing Clark running in on Abby, trying to save her. Definitely, gets her back up. But while she's getting up, McCreary walks in on them. And then you kind of get this twist with Clark helping McCreary, kind of letting him know that the eye in the sky is kind of on a loop, which bizarre to me why Clark would help her out. Once again, being selfish and only thinking about herself and Maddie. After that, you kind of go and see one crew still marching. So I think that was kind of telling, kind of seeing that they're definitely going to keep going. From there, you're going to see Raven trying to let them know that it's a trap. But obviously, from that aspect of it, you kind of see Echo becoming this leader, this person. And I love how she just basically looks at, everyone from Sky Crew when they're in that little cave, and it's basically just like, you guys come with me, you guys stay here, like, and everyone just follows in, just in line. Then we get our first vision of the dark years going through Abby's eyes. And you kind of run through this little scenario, I guess, when it first started with Indra. You had, who else was it? Indra, Octavia, Kane, Abby. There were a few other people there. And they start talking about how the crops are running low, and they're going to have to use the fighting pits. I definitely thought that was kind of cool. So then you kind of flip back all the way to the one crew walking. Octavia is gonna keep on walking even after Bellamy tells her like, hey, it's a setup. But Octavia's just doing Octavia. She's in her little crazy realm. But then, you kind of get a real quick, kind of spy shot into Echo leading Sky Crew and just getting it done, finding that base, Murphy finding the weapons, and then, they're all sneaking by. They think they're going to get it, and then boom, they get busted. So I thought that was interesting. And, from there I was like, great, the plan's all ruined. This is going to screw everybody up. But then Shaw comes out of nowhere and just rescues them, beats the crap out. I think it was like 3 or 4 people. He ends up saving them. But then everyone's pissed at him for saving them. So I thought that was just a little injustice. So, but we get to hear a little bit more about that at the end of the episode. Then you kind of go back into the cave and you see Doza and Kane having a little chat. And then Kane says something very specific, kind of about how Octavia lost her way a long time ago. And then he says the word, how do you choose between a monster and the devil? So I thought that was real interesting. And that gets tied back into the very end of the episode. And then, of course, Abby, we jump back to the whole Abby situation. Abby's heart stops, and she was, I guess, kind of just saying some some truth stuff to Clark, and Maddie just kind of put her in her place real quick, which I thought was awesome. But then, Clark ends up grabbing that needle, doing the Pulp Fiction style, stabs her in the heart, and then we get to see kind of another side of the Dark Ages. And lo and behold, what everyone was thinking and all the theories were running around online, they're eating each other, cannibals. That's how they can survive. And then you get kind of a glimpse of Octavia kind of saying, they died so we can live. But the one thing that I will say, and this is just totally off subject, but who cut all those pieces of meat into perfectly little cubes? Like, I can't cut my chicken that well. And these people are cutting human flesh into perfectly little cubes. So definitely thought that was an interesting one. They must have had, some top chef or something in there just slicing up these bodies. I do find it odd, though, at this point, how we're only seeing the dark years through Abby's eyes. Definitely thought that was weird. Then you kind of jump back into Maddie kind of whipping out her knife and just letting, I guess she was walking, going to, I guess, straight up kill some of the people there. But Clark stops her, and then Maddie lets her know that, they're fighting on the wrong side. And this is kind of where the episode kind of like gets all crazy on me. So the Sky Crew and all them, they find out that they're using Doza's playbook, and Doza knows the whole plan, the whole thing, like from front to back. Doza obviously echoes that to Bellamy, or to Echo. Echo says it to Bellamy. Bellamy then plays a smart card, which I'm definitely liking Bellamy in this season. He goes to Octavia and basically is just like, hey, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. This is the thing, but you have to come into my terms. Like once they surrender, no one dies. We split it. And then, to my shock, Octavia actually agrees to it. And then I thought it was just a low blow kind of at the end to kind of show how far away Octavia has been from this whole situation. How she goes talking to Bellamy, and she's just talking about how this is how it always should have been. Us fighting together side by side. And Bellamy basically just puts the brakes on her and is like, I'm not fighting for you. I'm fighting to get my family back. And at that point, I'm just like, holy crap. Like, I guess he's already put a shoehorn between, his sister and Blood Reina. So I thought that was really cool. You jump back again to Abby talking with Clark, talking about the dark years, and you kind of see how this whole cannibalism thing, how Abby is kind of in a weird way the one who orchestrated it. You kind of see Abby telling Octavia that, this is the only way that they'll survive, and the only way that it'll work is if you get Kane to do it. And then Octavia, you can tell she looked very confused, and this is definitely back when I'll say she was more humanized. But how she was saying, kind of, should we make it into a crime? If you don't basically eat, you don't become a cannibal. So then, they kind of pop into the next meal scene, and everyone sits down, and you kind of see this table not eating at all. And, immediately, as soon as I saw that Octavia got up, that's when I was like, oh man, things are about to get real. And she walks up to that table and she just tells them, eat. And obviously they don't eat. Next thing the one guy, the first guy that she talks to, he basically says that it was his brother that was in there, and he's not gonna eat the body of his brother. And then bam, she grabs a gun and shoots him, and then she shoots another guy at the table, and then another woman. Man, that whole table is getting whacked. And then next thing you know, Kane just pops out of nowhere and is like, kind of calling her out, and then he's like, we will eat, and he starts eating it, and then everyone else starts eating it. So in a weird sadistic way, Abby was right about all of this. Kind of saying how Kane is the key. So I definitely thought that part was weird. And then you kind of get into the scene back with Maddie and Clark, and Maddie straight up, using, I guess, the power of the fire, just telling Clark all this history that Clark has never told her before. So I definitely thought that was interesting, and you can definitely tell how Maddie knows so much more than Clark anticipated. And then Maddie kind of does the little dagger of saying, she's ashamed of her. So I thought that was kind of like the nail in the coffin. So I think there's going to be a huge thing between Maddie and Clark. And then from there, you go back to Octavia, still marching on. I'm hoping that Doza, after all this, gave her the correct plans and all this. Monty is, you get a nice little final touch with Monty and Bellamy. Just kind of Monty sharing his last rations with them, asking him if he wants him to go to the front line. And Bellamy basically saying, no, just, hold your ground here. The plan. And then finally, you go back to the Sky Crew section, and you see Shaw kind of giving out, I guess, bombs or something. But then him and Raven have that moment, and definitely it was nice to see Raven finally caring about someone and showing true care. I thought that was cool. While they, her and Shaw were kissing, you kind of see a glimpse of Echo, and you can tell she was missing Bellamy and all that. And Amari went there and just kind of took care of him and just kind of let him know, like, hey, you'll be there tomorrow. I did find it interesting. They jump back to Octavia, and Octavia tells Bellamy, to thank Echo next time, you talk to her. And Bellamy's just like, just tell her yourself. So I think it's almost like you're going to see a clear division between Bellamy and Octavia, moving forward. And then here is where the freaking ball just blew me away. The last scene of this episode, you see Kane and Doza basically double crossing the one crew, but Kane brings back that one line where the whole do you want the monster or the devil to win? And he's like, I don't want the devil into to be in this land type of thing. So what a freaking cliffhanger. This episode was definitely insane. I will say, as much as the dark years were hyped up, I did think in this part of the episode, at least, it kind of let me down, because it was all this hype just to be like, oh, we're cannibals. And yeah, that's a big thing, but I definitely thought they could have done a lot more with that, or at least thrown something else into the loop. I wasn't a huge fan of that. But definitely next episode, obviously the war's happening. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, because now that Doza and Kane basically are double crossing them, you kind of have to wonder, like, what's going to happen, or if this was part of the plan the whole time, and they're going to act like they're double crossing them just to have one crew end up winning. Either way, that is kind of a big cliffhanger. What I suspect will happen is next episode will kind of be the war in some way. You'll have this giant war bust out. I think that somehow, some way, you're gonna kind of see a mixture of basically everyone. I don't want to say just kind of giving up, but coming to like a stalemate per se. I definitely think they're going to end up using the ship once again in those little like cryogens to basically take, another group. Because I think those things held, was like 100 or so people. I can definitely see them taking that and just kind of, the selected few will end up winning and kind of going in there and leaving the earth, or maybe they're leaving it. I don't know. I see the ship has something to do with this finale. I definitely see it. I can see kind of next episode being the war. The episode after that, I hope they don't do it this way, but I can see it almost being like a fast forward to like what the real world or afterwards we'll see. Because I know there's only 2 episodes left, and I know it got renewed for another season. So definitely, we still haven't seen any major deaths in this whole thing. So obviously, Bellamy and Clark are going to survive. I'm not sure about Octavia. That's the one that right now is a wild card for me. I think she'll end up dying. Doza, I think, will live. Kane will definitely live. It wouldn't shock me if Abby dies. But I definitely want to see what happens there. The only main reason I think Octavia is going to die is because I think Maddie's going to take over one crew, and that'll put a nice little spin into the whole series. But overall, like always, man, this series is definitely amazing. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next week. But definitely let me know your thoughts, what you think of this episode. For me, I think it was definitely a great episode. It was hyped up a little too much for my liking, but it's I guess that's what you got to do. But I think next episode is probably going to be one that's going to be jam-packed with action, and hopefully they keep moving on with that high into the next episode or the season finale. But other than that, that's my review and my theories for the next coming episodes. Definitely let me know what you think, and I will talk to you guys later.